Welcome to another Introduction to Coaching Sports Zoom podcast. This is our 11th series, and this morning I am very honored to have two distinguished guests, and I also consider them as friends, Dr. Ralph Miller and Greg McVey. And before we get into our questions, guys, I want to give a little bit of information, a little bit of bio information about your past, your administrative history, your profession, and then we'll get into the questions that we have for the show. My name is Dr. Thomas Earl Reed, and I am the co-author of Introduction to Coaching Sports. And we have these series to educate or give feedback, not necessarily feedback, but questions or answers for young coaches who want to get into the profession and even coaches who are currently in the profession. So I thank both of you guys for taking the time to be a part of the show this morning. Thank you so much.
Great to be here.
We'll start with Dr. Ralph Miller. Dr. Ralph Miller was the director of athletics, PE chair, and instructor, and a basketball coach at Kennedy High School and Curry High School, and then the Chicagoland area. He has also been the director of athletics and men's basketball coach at South Suburban College in Illinois, director of athletics and associate dean at the College of DuPage. And I'm honored to say that he put me in a position to also establish that role for 4 years after he retired. He's also the director of admissions and the associate basketball coach at Lewis University, and currently is a sports management program director at Lewis University. Ralph, thank you for being a part. Good morning to you.
You're welcome. Glad to be with you, Earl.
Thank you. Next, Greg McVey. Greg has been at the Miami University in Middleton, served as the head men's baseball coach, was at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina as the assistant men's baseball coach as well. Miami University of Oxford, Ohio as the assistant men's baseball coach. He's been at Kentucky Wesleyan College as the head baseball coach and director of campus recreation, and then started this long career as an administrator and as an athletic director at Quincy University as the head men's baseball coach and associate director of athletics. Was at Culver Stockton College and was served as the director of athletics at Colvin. Was at Jefferson College, was a director of athletics at Jefferson College as well, and then also at the College of DuPage, I was the athletic director. And then prior to Santa Fe College, I didn't put it down on my paper, Greg. You're at
Garden City College.
Garden City,
Kansas.
College,
Yes, sir.
Director of athletics, and currently now is the director of athletics at Santa Fe Community College. Greg, welcome to the show, and thank you for also being a part of this as well.
It's outstanding to be here. Thank you, Dr. Reed.
Thank you. Well, one thing that is common is that all three of us have served as director of athletics at the College of DuPage, and all three of us know how outstanding of an institution and a community college College of DuPage is. So, well, let's dive right into these questions, guys. And Ralph, we'll start with you. We'll let you answer the first one, and then Greg, you can chime right in afterwards. You both have a lot of experience as administrators and coaches. But what advice would you give young coaches? Now, I know this is not in the book, but I do want to get your feedback. If I decide to do a second edition, I definitely want to incorporate this in the second edition. But what advice would you give coaches regarding this new NIL, this name, image, and likeness concept, and maybe incorporating that into, a coaching philosophy? This is new. I recently just met with, as I was sharing with you, Greg, prior to us starting the podcast, with the vice president of advancement and outreach at Chico State, flew out here and had lunch with me, trying to get some alums involved in the institution. And we talked a little bit about this, and it was kind of foreign to him. And so I know this is a new concept, but just based on you guys' experience, how would you advise young coaches, Ralph, to incorporate maybe this new concept in their coaching philosophy?
Well, first of all, I think it's an overreaction. The entire effort. I think the NCAA was very, very non-reactive to the realization that athletes need to have an opportunity to earn some additional money. And I think the pendulum has swung too far, because to be very honest with you, I think the new regulations are going to favor those that are very successful right now. And let me just give you an example. If as a Division I basketball coach or any coach would normally come in with an assistant, talk to the family and so forth about the opportunities at their particular institution, now they'll bring the assistant coach, the head coach, and a car dealer owner to be able to say, well, gee, we'll get you a new Lexus or what have you, as long as you appear in ads. I just think it's going to be an opportunity for those that are not honest people to cheat like crazy. Do I think athletes deserve the opportunity to make additional money? The answer to that is most definitely yes. And I think with respect to Division II, Division III and the NCAA, it's going to have very little effect. I know that I saw probably about a month ago that once the regulations were passed, there was a Division II female athlete who had a great following in social media that did sign an opportunity, but I just don't see it affecting many people below the level of Division I, below the level of Division I. Greg, maybe if you want to hop in there, because you're probably dealing with a little bit more than I am.
Well, I can tell you, Ralph, I agree with you in a lot of what you're saying. I think a lot of this, it does not get down to the level that I am currently at community college at the 2-year. But I can tell you this, even though it doesn't get to us, we still have to handle it. We still have to come up with, policies and procedures regarding how we're going to handle this. If someone comes forward that they have an opportunity to, earn some more dollars. But you're right, it really only affects the highest level of Division I. The one issue that I find very, very interesting is that at the 2-year kind of institution, and we're in the same town as the University of Florida. So there are very high level kids who play there at the University of Florida that might be able to sign these deals to make some extra dollars, from promoting a restaurant or a car, dealership or whatever it may be, that may end up having issues at their institution that end up coming to us for an opportunity to continue their playing career and still have those agreements in place. So even though it doesn't directly, it didn't originate with us, we may inherit that at our level because somebody would bring that alongside them. So we have to be prepared with the way we handle all of those things. We have to be aware of those things. We have to tell them what they can and can't do, which is very hard to do because at the end of the day, they have the freedom to do a lot of things, but there are things that they just can't do with, gambling and kind of alcohol and all those sorts of things. So we have to make sure that they understand what they can and can't do. I guess my one bit of advice, if you're a coach at the highest level, would be, regardless of how much this person may make promoting this product or doing any of those sorts of things, it doesn't exclude them from the expectations that that student athlete has for their team. So it doesn't excuse them from being on time and being a good student and being a good teammate. It doesn't make you larger than the team. So being able to handle that at Kentucky, where you've got these kids that are high profile type kids, you want to make sure that they understand, yes, I want you to come play for me. And yes, you have all of these funds that are going to come in from your who you are, but that doesn't mean that you can't be a good teammate. That doesn't mean you have to go to class. You have to do all the things that I expect. It doesn't excuse you from doing those things. So I think you need to make sure that those expectations are clear when you recruit a kid that has an opportunity to create those funds for themselves. So it's a really interesting world that we're in, Ralph, you know, and Earl, we didn't have to deal with this back when we coached, but now it's here. So it's one of those things that we're just still trying to figure out the right way to handle it. But you're right, it's at the highest level more than it is down at our level.
No, it's interesting. Those some outstanding feedback, guys, and I'm sure our viewers will be able to use that information. One of the things that I shared with the vice president at Cal State University Chico regarding this NIL concept was that I said, well, you know, this is now something that may be incorporated into a recruiting strategy. If, for example, you're in an area where, you know, say you have an allegiance or a good friendship with a business owner in the town, and you say, hey, I got this, you know, this student athlete that I'm bringing in. This person has great personality, really knows how to speak well. You know, would you be interested in maybe having him or her as the face to some degree of your business? And then maybe now when you're out recruiting this female or male athlete, that's something that you can use that could entice them to come to your program as opposed to going somewhere else. So I think you're right. I think both of you have some really, really valid points. But if I was talking to coaches today, I'd say, well, you know, it might be something that you want to have in your coaching philosophy. You're right. Maybe not at the community college level, but if you could create those types of partnerships with individuals or businesses, I could see this as being a positive as far as recruiting is concerned, and maybe give you the edge if you can establish, you know, those relationships, even if you're coaching at the community college level, Division III or Division II. But I think both are right. I think, Greg, you're hitting on something. This is something that's not going to go away, and it's something that coaches are going to have to deal with. And we know at the higher level, as you indicated, Ralph, yes, you have to now bring not only the car salesman, but probably the agent as well. Now, when you're recruiting at that level.
You know, Earl, one other point I'd like to add, yes. I would think that obviously the Division I level, the major Division I level is going to be greatly affected by this. But I also could see Division II, Division III in rural areas where they're the only show in town.
Right.
And it's something, for example, Greg, you were at Quincy, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay, Quincy offers somebody a car to go play basketball at Quincy. We're trying to recruit them. We're in a metropolitan area where we're one of many, many organizations, schools and so forth. So therefore, Quincy is going to have an advantage if he has a car dealer in his pocket, where Lewis may not have an advantage. That's where I'm at right now. So it's something that I think it could, if it's used, whether you want to say appropriately or inappropriately, it certainly could give an advantage to a smaller town, university, or college.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I also think, and I you know, again, Earl, I'd like to add to that. If I own a business, do I really want to put all my eggs on an 18-year-old college kid who might be very polished and all those sorts of things? But as all of us know, we've dealt with kids that age our entire lives, and they make mistakes. And so if they go out and they do something that could really affect the kind of image of your business, is it really worth the dollars that you may profit from? So I would have a hard time doing this if I owned business. But at the end of the day, there are folks out there that don't care, that just want to find a way to make an extra dollar. So we'll have to see. But I would think twice about doing this if I was a business owner. So that being said, you know, yeah, I just think it's been a strange thing, and so we'll have to see how it goes forward.
Just to reinforce that, many organizations, instead of using live athletes, have chosen to use dead athletes in their commercials because they can't do anything wrong anymore. So it's something that you make a very, very valid point, Greg.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, here's the second question, and Greg, we'll start with you. And this is probably more germane to the community college level, and you both have a lot of experience, at the community college level as administrators and as the director of athletics. Generating ticket sales at the community college level, it is tough, from athletic competitions, because maybe sometimes you don't get the crowds that you do at a Division I or maybe even a Division II institution. But as a marketing strategy, did or are you using any strategies at the community college level to assist in generating revenue? And if so, what strategies are you using, or what recommendations could you give to someone who is maybe assuming that role as a director of athletics, but mainly a coach to help generate revenue at that level? And Greg, you're currently in that role, so we'll start with you.
I am. And I think it all, and it goes back to what Ralph said before, is that it depends on where your institution is. If you're the only game in town and you're not competing with professional sports or large Division I institutions, you can do some creative things. Like when I was at Garden City, we were the only game in town. I mean, we're in a small town of about 50,000 people, but we play at a high level at the D1 and NJCAA type school, and we're the only game in town, and we're very good at what we did with football and 2 or 3 other sports. But in order for the community to get entertainment, sports and entertainment, they would have to go to Denver, which is 5.5 hours away, or Kansas City, which is another 5 hours away. So if you are in a town where you've got a captive audience, where you've got people that live and die with your institution sports teams, and they're at games and they come to your events and doing those sorts of things, it makes it a lot easier. When I was at DuPage, obviously we're in the Chicagoland area, and both Earl and Ralph, that we're going up against the Chicago Bulls and the White Sox and the Cubs and the Blackhawks and the Bears. And DuPage athletics isn't probably the first thing on everybody's mind. So you have to understand where you are, and you have to be able to tailor some things that'll help you. Regardless of where you are, I think there are some things that you can do that can really help promote your team, and you can drive some things. One of the things that I've had a lot of success with of late is live streaming your games. And so if you live stream your games, it creates a larger audience. You can engage parents that might not be able to get to games. But what you can do on the live stream games is you can sell advertising, you can sell commercials, you can do all those sorts of things that help promote the businesses that surround your institution. So when those people come into town to see their kids or do whatever, they may go and eat at your restaurant. So it's important that we do those things. So that's been very, very helpful. Doing podcasts, just like what we're doing right now, and sending those out to alumni, to the community, and trying to engage them, because everybody's busy. Not everybody can always get out to a game or get on campus and do some things, but if you can send content to them, it really helps engage them. So at some point, maybe they go, maybe I'll go over to a game, right? But it's important, and I think everybody understands that no matter where you are, no matter what division you play at, what type of school you're at, you probably need to raise funds to keep up with the other institutions that you're trying to compete against. Whether it be like a special trip that you want to take your team on, or a third set of shoes that you want to buy your kids, you have to be able to create those funds. So you always have to be trying to take advantage of the opportunities that you have in front of you. Obviously you can do events like, online team stores. You can have a alumni golf outing just to get people back so they can remember all the great things they had. And those are the kind of people that can make an impact on you. So it starts with where you are, but you got to be creative, and you've got to bring content to the community, 2-year alums, because that's how people take things in these days. So I guess that would be my advice.
Well, I'm not going to steal Ralph's thunder because he did an outstanding job at the College of DuPage, developing those relationships. So Ralph, I'll let you, respond to the question and talk a little bit about those strategies that, and probably not only at the College of DuPage, but I'm pretty sure maybe at South Suburban College as well when you're director of athletics there.
First of all, after listening to Greg, I understand why College of DuPage made a great decision to hire him, because he certainly is very knowledgeable, very, very talented. And as I've said to him, I'm sorry to see that he had moved on, because I do have a warm spot in my heart for the College of DuPage. Great place. I think a couple comments that I'd like to make, and this may not necessarily be specific things, but some general comments. One of the things that I am a master of, I'm a thief of great ideas. I'm not real creative, but I try and associate myself with creative people. And if I were to take, for example, the most creative organizations with respect to sports that I run across in the Chicagoland area are minor league baseball teams. They have theme nights. I've supervised a number of interns that have been at, for example, the Kane County Cougars or the Joliet Slammers. There's probably 5 or 6 different minor league teams in the area. And when they have a Frozen night or something like that, the place is packed because mom and dad are bringing their kids to be able to enjoy the night celebrating the Frozen. So I've always looked at the idea of trying to be able to figure out what other people are doing successfully. One of the first things I did when I got hired at the College of DuPage as the associate dean and director of athletics was the fact I went out and visited people with the Kane County Cougars, who were the darling, at the time, they were the darlings of sports in the area, and talk with them. And I'm trying to remember right now, make sure, I remember they said 3 things, and it's something that has never lost me. Make sure you involve people, make sure they have fun, and make sure somebody else pays for their fun. Well, part of that to me is something you need to go out and develop relationships with organizations. And when you create a relationship or a partnership with it, it can't be a one-way street. It has to be a 2-way street. You got to figure out what you can do for them before they can figure out what you're going to do for you. And one of the things that, my dissertation, when I worked on my doctorate, was on partnerships between business and industry and higher education. Well, my mind functions when I meet somebody. I'm not trying to say how I can take advantage of them, but I'm trying to say, how can we develop a relationship? How might we be able to mutually, satisfy each other's needs? And it's something that it's not easy, but you have to go with that mindset. But getting back to you about increasing attendance and so forth, Cub Scout Day, Boy Scout Day, Girl Scout Day, Brownie Day, theme nights, everything you can. I know, for example, minor league baseball, they have a bunch of free days and they make their money on selling food. So I just think you have to, think outside the box, expand your horizons on that, and look to find what people in the area that are for-profits are doing to generate attendance at their events. And then maybe you can do the same thing.
Yeah. And I give Ralph a lot of credit because I stole one of his ideas. I know 2 of the things, the 2 individuals that he really reached out to was one, I'm an administrator I'll use the term administrator, but a corporate person at Pepsi. And then he also created some basketball clinics at the College of DuPage. And I know those generated a lot of income for the athletic department. And he was instrumental in doing that. And I'm sure, Greg, you have too at your institutions as well. And I appreciate that feedback. I think this could be very useful for someone who's in a position of a director of athletics at a small program at a small high school to get very creative and think outside the box and more importantly, or as importantly, nurture relationships of those individuals around those areas. great feedback, guys.
Earl, and if you are a young coach that has ideas and you have all this passion, I think you should take that and you should talk to your administrators and say, hey, I've got these ideas. What do you think? And then partner with your administration and figure out ways to do those theme nights. Because use all the creativity that you have. Even if you're a brand new coach, find ways to make things work, because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make the experience for your team the best it possibly can be. And if you can create dollars to help with that experience, that's what it's all about. So don't be afraid to bring forward ideas to your administrators. And I think that that's an important thing.
Let me just make a comment too, Earl. Sorry to interrupt you, but
No,
you mentioned Pepsi and the relationship we had with Pepsi, which was absolutely unbelievable. I left the College of DuPage 19 years ago. The Pepsi representative retired and so forth. And it's something my wife and I became very good friends with this particular person. And I send her a Christmas gift every year, even though she can't be doing anything for me, because I was so appreciative of what she did for College of DuPage and Ralph Miller Enterprises, so to speak. And to me, it's something that it's got to be a mutual arrangement. It's got to be something that you're genuinely concerned with the people that are involved. You develop that relationship, and we're going to be friends until we die. There's no doubt in my mind about it. And it's something that I just think it's something that comes from having a service mentality. It comes from having a desire to be able to help people. And it comes from a desire to maybe think a little bit outside the box and figure out how Pepsi and how the College of DuPage can bond together. The relationship eventually for the College of DuPage, not necessarily the athletics department, wound up to be a $250,000 deal. That's 20 years ago. They created a relationship where COD was getting $250 a year from Pepsi by being the exclusive soft drink of the organization. Yeah. Well, we had at the time 36,000 students. So obviously there are a lot of people drinking pop. So it was a mutually good arrangement. Pepsi was in there before and they weren't giving us anything. Yeah. But because we're creating a relationship, maximizing opportunity of $250,000 extra per year to the coffers at COD.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to tap into now a little bit of you guys' coaching experience. And I know you've probably been asked this question 1,000 times, but what are some key strategies that to recruiting student athletes for those young coaches that will be viewing this podcast? And you can talk about today's society or when you guys were coaches. I think there are a lot of things that are still very similar in the recruiting process. Ralph, we'll start with you. What do you think some key strategies are to, recruiting student athletes?
I think that personally, you have to have an intense burning desire to be successful. And to me, that's something that's going to drive you to work maybe a little bit harder and a little bit smarter than other people are to recruit athletes. One of the things that I found that and it took a while for me as a young coach to understand this, but you have to create the right fit. The expectations of what the student athlete is going to experience, needs to be very, very close to the realizations of what they do experience. Because in this day and age in college athletics, there's a lot of one and outs. And it's something that you need to make sure that what their expectations are very, very close to the realizations of what is actually going to happen when they do arrive. And I think creating the right fit is something that's really, really important. I also think that personal touch. When I was at Lewis University and I was coaching basketball, there was an associate basketball coach at Lewis at the time. I recruited the best player that's ever played at Lewis University. And it was something that I spent, every Friday night and Saturday night sitting with mom and dad and his brother, watching him play, and developed an honest relationship with the family. And I think that you need to be able to get to know the person, and you need to be able to get to know the family and develop a bond. And he had opportunities to go other places, but chose Lewis, and eventually, was again the best successful player. Had his retired, and I think was the last person cut by the Cleveland Cavaliers after he graduated from college. So it's something I think you need to have personal touch. You need to be able to be a hard worker, have an intense burning desire to do that, then make sure that there's a right fit. I've seen situations where you bring in people that are talented, but it's not the right fit for your organization. They could give two rips about being educated. All they want to do is play basketball. And it's something that I've always said that I'm going to hopefully make you the best person, the best student, the best player in that order. And to me, that's something that's very, very important.
Great.
Yeah, Ralph. I mean, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think fit is extremely important. And I think fit starts with you as a coach knowing what you value as a coach, you know, kind of understanding what is important to you. Why are you coaching? Are you there just to win? Or are you there to develop kids and teach through sport? And I think having an understanding of who you are helps you go out and recruit and build those relationships, because you're going to try to find kids. Yes, they're going to help you on the court, field, course, track, whatever it is, right? But you have to know, is that person, based on the information that I have, going to be a good fit in my program, in the things that I value, and in the style of play that I want? I can tell you as a coach, a longtime coach, I've passed on very talented players because of conversations that I've sat in the stands and heard mom and dad talk about, or I've seen the way they play catch or the way they come off the field and they're pouting and their body language isn't right. That person is probably not going to do very well in my program because I don't value that. And so when you're out recruiting, you have to feel comfortable with the kids that you have in your program. And yes, you have to be successful, you know, athletically, and you have to win games and do those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, knowing who you are and knowing that you're trying to develop a kid with your values in mind, and hard work and communication skills and overcoming adversity and all those sorts of things are the things that you're trying to teach through sport. So know what you value when you go out and recruit, so you can help these kids become the best student they can. I'm going to tell you one of the things that has really become prominent in recruiting these days, and I'm not telling anybody anything new, is social media. And I can tell you that I have dealt with, over the past 12 to 15 years, now that those things are prominent in our society, that a lot of these coaches, before they will offer scholarships or do anything, will check out their Facebook profiles, their Snapchat profiles, and find out what they're putting out in the world, because it's kind of a lens into who they are. And if you see things that are like, whoa, that doesn't fit my values, that doesn't fit what I'm trying to teach kids, then I'm probably going to pass on that kid. And it happens all the time in the world as well. When an employer is trying to hire somebody for a position, they look and see, what are they putting out in the world? Because that's what you're going to get when they come to your organization or your team. So be very careful who you recruit, but at the end of the day, you've got to feel comfortable who is on your team, and that you have the best fit, the best combination of student athletes that are going to provide a great product, but also they're going to be developed to be human beings. And I think that would be my advice to a coach at this point.
Yeah. Earl, let me just make one other comment, and it's very relevant to what's happening in recruiting today. I think in the NCAA world, throw NAIA in there also, you've got schools that are maybe mid-level Division I schools are recruiting the best players out of Division II schools. And to me, that's something I just think it's totally unethical. I'll just give you an example. A couple of years ago, one of our outstanding players was recruited by another school, wound up going to that school, now is playing with the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
Had somebody 2 years ago, the best player we had on a team, who had the opportunity to come back his senior year, and now was the most successful player at a mid-level Division I school in Southern Illinois. So it's a situation where I just think that the NCAA is is allowing people to do what I consider inappropriate, unethical things. And that's an issue that needs to be addressed, especially at Division II, Division III level.
And I agree. I think it definitely challenges, your recruiting strategies when you spend so much time with an individual and now with this transfer portal, and the thousands of athletes that, put their name in the transfer portal after having a successful year or a second year at an institution, definitely changes, how you're going to recruit. How do you address that person and say, hey, I'm committed to you. This institution is going to be committed to you. How committed to you are you going to be to our institution to be here for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, or whatever it may be? Definitely create some challenges, but I think you guys had some key points to just the foundation of recruiting and strategies that coaches can use when they go out. And this is we're not only talking about team sports, but individual sports as well. Well, this last question, you guys pretty much have answered it with your questions from the first three, but I'm going to ask you anyway. And Ralph, I'll start with you. What are some key components to building a successful athletic program? You've been an administrator in so many different pockets of building programs, and I'm sure your ideologies, behind that, you have a lot to offer. What do you think are some key components to building a successful athletic program? And I'll be specific. I'll say, at the community college level, because I think that's very difficult to do at the community college level because there's so many other tangibles that could be involved.
Well, actually, I'm going to love the comment on this because it's a bunch of stuff that I teach right now in my sport leadership class, my sport program administration class. But I think the first thing, and I think Greg alluded to this earlier, you need to know yourself and know your organization. Know what their purpose is, the mission, and so forth. I can remember early on, somebody had said to me, you have a mission. It's a lot of garbage. No, it's not. It's something that you really need to know what your purpose is, what you're doing, and you need to be able to share that throughout your entire organization. And you're not going to get everybody on board, but you got to try and get as many people on board as you possibly can. And I think you need to be very much intentional about what you're doing. It's got to be something that is, you have decided this is what I need to do in order to be able to develop the program. And one of the things that, aside from being intentional, that I really emphasize is the concept of scanning your environment to know what's going on internally and externally around you. Not only circumstances are going, but the people around you, knowing, what they like, what they don't like, what, different characteristics and so forth. The organization and so, you just need to know that. And when you know that, you have a great opportunity and you know your purpose, you have a great opportunity to establish a culture that's going to be conducive to being successful. And I can't tell you how important the culture is. And one of the things, and this is something that a author by the name of Schein, Schein, had kind of alluded to, is the culture is like an iceberg. You see some of it above the water, and you see an awful lot of it below the water. But you have a more difficult time seeing the below the water culture than you do the above. I'll just relate a quick story. I remember I was at a meeting with somebody, one of my colleagues, and there was a controversial issue was coming up, and this person was agreeing with the leader, so to speak. Okay. And I wasn't really thrilled with the idea and so forth, expressed my opinion, but it was something that was kind of tabled and moved on. As we're walking out the meeting, the person that was so supportive of the leader's idea said to me, "Wasn't that the dumbest ass thing you ever heard in your life?" Well, that's below the water.
Right.
And it's something that you got to realize that, many people are going to react to the leader in a positive way to be able to gain the leader's favor. But you need to look below the surface to find out what the people are about, what your organization is about, and so forth. And I know as we were talking, I think that, one of the reasons why that we did have success at the College of DuPage was because of the leader. At the time, we had a president that was very, very supportive of athletics. And not saying the others that would follow them weren't supportive of athletics, but this person was just extremely supportive. So you need to be able to get that support and to be able to get people on board with you with a mission, but you got to share that and communicate that with them. The other point that I wanted to share, and it'll be the last point, I think has to do with the mentality you have and the mentality of the people. You have to have a service mentality. I'm here to add value to the people we're dealing with. I'm there to add value to the participants. I'm there to add value to staff. I'm there to add value to anybody who's associated with the program. And it's got to be something that it has to be service. It's not about you. It's about others. It's about we. It's not about me. So I will shut up and let Greg add some to that also.
Ralph, no, that's great. It's great to hear you say those things, because you and I think a lot alike with some things, and that means a lot to me, because I respect what you've done, obviously, in your career. But I think one of the key points that you made that I think is so important, in my experience on all of my stops, whether I've been a coach or an administrator, is you have to have, or athletics has to have, support from the highest levels of the institution. And that, from the board of trustees to the president to the cabinet, they have to value what athletics brings to the institution. If they feel like it's just an activity, they're going to treat it like it's an activity. If they treat it as it's part of the fabric and it's important to the institution to be successful at developing kids, then they will promote that. They will put the resources in, they will talk about it, and they will not just say it, they will prove it, and they will be at games, and they'll support your student athletes, and they'll do those things that are extremely important. Without that, it's very hard to make things right and things to go the way you want them to be. So regardless of how important you think athletics is, no matter how hard you work, there's always going to be that, do I have support from above? If I've got support from above, then great things can happen. And so understanding your scope is extremely important. So if you know I can only control a certain amount, I'm going to make that certain amount the best it possibly can be. Make the big time where you're at. I don't care if you're at the smallest school in the country or the largest school in the country. Like Ralph said, bring value, make things better, make people go, wow, that athletic department does it the right way. The way they carry themselves, the people that they hire, the facilities that they put out there, the things that they say, all those things are a reflection of the institution. But I can think back to all of my time, the times that I feel like I've had success turning a program around or improving a program is because I've had support from above, and that they valued having a strong athletic program. And I'm not just talking about wins and losses. I'm talking about support for academics. I'm talking about support for the student in terms of mental health and all of those sorts of things, and having a comprehensive program. And they're committed to it, and they're going to put the resources in it. The other thing that I really want everybody to understand, and it may not seem important to some people, but where athletics is in the organizational chart is extremely important as well. If you're reporting to the vice president of this or the vice president of that, as opposed to reporting directly to the president of the institution, there's a difference. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be successful reporting to a VP, but when you're reporting directly to the president, even if he or she is not all about athletics, it sends a message to everybody that, whoa, athletics is extremely important to me as the leader of the institution. So we're going to do things the right way. So again, I think having that commitment from the top is key to anything you do. And then you got to control everything that you can control within your scope and try to make it the best you can. And so I guess that's my advice.
Let me just add one other thing to what Greg has said. You got to get the right people on the bus. you have to hire to develop a program. Obviously when you're winning, it's a lot easier to get momentum and support and so forth, but you got to make sure you hire the right people. And not only are they knowledgeable about the sport they're coaching, but they are very caring, concerning people that are going to add value to their student athletes. And I can't tell you how much, how important that is. And as I reflect back, I probably had a real easy job, because I look at it, the president that hired me and the provost that hired me was something, they were so supportive of athletics. One announced the football games, the other was a spotter for the football games. What else could you ask for? We're talking about a president nationally known, and he's just totally supportive of athletics. And, it's something I'd like to believe that I created some things in a positive nature, but behind the scenes, maybe even unbeknownst to me, they did things because they were 100% supportive of athletics. They recognized the value that can be gotten for student athletes through playing in a program. So again, Earl, it's been a pleasure, unless you have any more questions. Greg, it's great seeing you too. And I wish I saw you in green and gold, to be honest with you, because I just thought that you were going to do a great job developing the program at College DuPage. So again, it's great seeing you, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, Ralph. I appreciate it. It's always good to see you as well.
Thank you.
Dr. Ralph Miller, Mr. Greg McVey, thank you so much for your expertise, your insight, and more importantly, or as importantly, your continued friendship. This has been an outstanding series. You guys have given some great, as I'll use the little term, golden nuggets that others will be able to look at who want to embrace this profession as a coach and administrator. Just outstanding. Thank you so much. And as they all say, the check is in the mail.
Got it.
Oh, no, I do it for free, Earl. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But the money's not important in this profession.
Thanks. Well, then again, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And I wish you guys the best and look forward to seeing you soon. Ralph, hopefully I'll be seeing you soon in October. But just a great show, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Your best, Earl.
All the best.